was attracted to making things full stop. I grew up in a house where my mother, my grandfather, my father all made things. And my father was an architect and an artist. He drew, and I drew from very, very early on. Art college was the obvious choice after school. And when you go to a foundation course, you try a bit of this and a bit of that. I kind of anticipated going into product design because it was the closest to architecture, but I saw my father loving some parts of his job and absolutely loathing other parts. And when I started out with product design, it was an idea, but when you try things out in an art college, you go to different department to department, and the metalwork department was the one where it was an instant fix. It was exciting. I got a big torch in my hand, big blowtorch, big piece of metal. I was hooked. The reason for using silver is that it's forgiving, malleable, ductile, and accessible. The reason for the public perceived reason for using silver is that it's precious. That's actually just an inhibition. And it's quite useful for me to try and forget that this metal does cost a few quid, because if I start letting that worry me too much, I'm not going to do my job properly. Precious, I think, must have originally meant to the people who dug the stuff out of the ground in the first place that it was clean and it was bright and it was shiny and it was more interesting than iron or other things they dug out of the ground. And it couldn't have been associated with monetary value. It could have been associated with rarity. But from my point of view, it's a clean and utterly forgiving material, which is accessible because nearly all the processes that we use with it are workable on a relatively small scale. If I wanted to work with stainless steel, which is tempting, I'd need thousands of pounds of expensive machinery to cut it, join it, shape it. This material, you can do quite a lot with a very limited set of tools and a limited set of techniques. And it's, in a way, I can treat it like paper. I can treat each piece like a drawing rather than something I have to worry about. If something's three-dimensional, you have to look hard, walk around it to see it all. It doesn't reveal itself all at one go. Everything I make is meant to be touched, handled, used. I'm not very interested in making showy objects. I am interested in making objects that people have some intimate connection with. So 3 dimensions are important because it gives. There's a whole load more. You could call it 4 dimensions. If you're looking inside something, you do not capture everything in one glance. I'm trying to use computer visualization, but it's just for geometry. Most of what I work with in terms of drawing is geometry, even if it's freehand. I make pretty simple objects. They are usually symmetrical. They are usually geometric, architectural, balanced, and so the drawing, in one sense, I draw very, very little. I draw to work out relative positions of things. I draw to work out measurements. Everything else is done by saying that's long enough, that matches that length, this length equals that length, this height looks right. Nothing else is drawn or calculated. The most direct way to get there is to work straight with the metal. The paper's work is useful, drawing is useful, but it's really an editing process. 99% of what I've drawn, I've never made and never will. It just saves me having to make it. And so sometimes I find it just a process of exhaustion. Keep on drawing and then make something different. I've made a series of boxes over I don't know how many years now. The first, I could trace them back 20, 25 years, but the most recent series, the most recent manifestation of these boxes probably started 6 or 7 years ago, and it's a house-shaped shrine or a reliquary, and it was originally sort of based on one I saw in the Chambers Street Museum in Edinburgh. And the house-shaped shrine reliquary is an object that you see in the cultures of the whole Celtic world and beyond. So this little box that looks like a house that could be made from almost anything, examples of it show up in Ireland, Scotland, all the way through Scandinavia, all the way through the middle of Europe, all the way down through Italy into the Middle East. All these people throughout this band of the world had some fondness for this shape. They were all made in different media. The boxes might include metal, enamel, wood, horn. This is a sort of 2,000–3,000 year old shape. And at some point I'd always made boxes of one sort or another, but this particular shape I picked up on, and each time I've made a version of it, I still find its intrigue in it and the chance to develop it. Each time I make it, I kind of think it's going to be the last time I make it, because I've done however many I've made. But each time I've made it, I found something else I've wanted to include, or some other aspect that I wanted to reveal, or something else about the idea that has been worth exploiting.